Don't worry about the questions. I'll take care of those because I don't want you forecasting the next one.
All right, you guys are good to go.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, sir.
What is up, everybody? Here with my brother, Chip Sizemore. And when we're getting together, hanging out, there's a lot of coffee involved. I wasn't even finished with my Onyx coffee, and Chip brought me a refill. So, how are you doing this morning, Chip?
Doing great. This is something I've never done before, so a little anxious. We're in a great area here over off of the Pinnacle exit. Really cool setup. Just did a tour. They've only been here for 2 weeks, so excited to step in here, make some content. Hopefully by the end I feel a little bit more natural, but
That's right, man. Yeah, podcastvideos.com. Shout out to Parker, who is the man, as well as Chris for having us, and also want to thank NWA Investing. Watched y'all's podcast and found out about the space. So yeah, I was in here yesterday with 1440. I think the interesting thing about being in a podcast room is you feel like what you're saying is turned up a notch, like it's even more important, but we can chop this up any way we want, so don't worry about it. It's just straight up conversation. But wow, this is pretty cool. So we both just turned 30.
we did.
My birthday is February 22nd. Chip's is February 23rd. So this is first time we've seen each other since December?
Yeah, about 3 months.
Yeah. So, gosh, I don't know where to start. But in December, we were at 16th, the house that we just got under contract, our flip. It was a cold night. I just bought a $100 suit from Men's Warehouse for a wedding. And the house was completely torn apart from demo. And I remember saying, man, I'll see you when I see you. I'm about to go train for the Little Rock Marathon in New York for the next 2 to 3 months, and you're going to be here grinding on this flip. And that was kind of ominous because I knew it'd be a while, and I knew we were in for it. So yeah, I think we'll start with 90 days ago, about to start this flip. Kind of what's on your mind going into flipping that home?
Yeah, so we purchased a property middle of December. At the same time, we were purchasing a separate property, and cash was a little tight. So at that point, we elected to not really start until after Christmas and the New Year's. And for me, that time frame is the best for flipping just because it's cold out. There's not many distractions. We're both golfers, so that's something that can and probably will get in the way of some of our flips.
Sure.
So for me, I was excited because I knew it was an opportunity for me to kind of dive into it. And at this point, this is technically our fourth flip through the business. We also both done flips on the outside. So I have a decent grasp at this point of the process, our subs. So for me, I was excited because at that point, it had been about 4 months from the completion and sale of our previous flip in Rogers, which was a townhouse, like a condo type setup. Sold that off market to a great family. Actually, the inspector that inspected the property for the bank wasn't one that reached out after that he came to the property, appraised it, reached out, said that he was interested for him and his family, sold that one, and then we had about a 4-month gap until we found our property there on 16th. So going into it, I knew that it was going to be about a 2-week process to gut the interior, and that's kind of what I handled. I handled the demo, which for me I think is valuable because it allows me to kind of see what needs to be corrected, areas that could be improved. I get a really good understanding of materials that are needed for the ordering process. So I find that process not only valuable, but also cost savings for us because we're not having to hire out that labor. Was really excited. I knew that, obviously first time that we've seen each other in about 3 months, but we've seen a lot of our faces on Zoom and phone calls and FaceTime. So you've been involved in the process from afar. You've handled a lot of our content via Instagram and whatnot, but going into the flip there beginning January, that was my thought process. It was going to be a hard 2 weeks, and then at that point I could kind of step back and act as like your general contractor and let the subs do their thing.
Well said. So before we talk more about GTW development, real quick recap on Chip and I. Been friends for a long, long time. When I think about the beginning of our friendship, I think about like the early to mid 2000s NBA. We were massive fans.
Yep.
Watched LeBron get drafted. I was Shaq and Kobe years. I think we initially hit it off trading basketball cards, which I think was just evidence of things to come. Started the lawn mowing business in high school, crushed it. I remember going to Red Lobster multiple times with cash in our pocket, thinking we were balling out, eating food that our parents weren't paying for. Go through high school, college, and we got back together on the sales side. I'm going to call it 2020. That's when I went full time. I quit my corporate job in May. Chip called me and he's like, "Hey man, I kind of hate my job too. We're not sorry if any of our former employers are listening to this. We did hate those jobs." And I remember Chip was like, "Bro, I'm going to quit my job as well. Tell me if I'm saying anything wrong, let me know." So by June of 2020, we were full-time selling real estate. We don't necessarily lean on this because I do think that there's a lot more to the business than the sales volume, but we've sold 300 plus homes. We hit it really hard. We saw what the consumer wants. We really understood the consumer in the process. And I think over time we realized we wanted to increase our leverage a little bit more to controlling the product and renovating properties and bringing all of our skills together. So that's how GTW Development was formed in 2023. Any gaps you want to fill in there on the quick recap?
No, I mean, I think you explained it well. I think that in anything that you do, you want to grow. And I felt like, we've been able to serve 300 people in the sales side of real estate, which has been absolutely incredible. But we also knew that there was some knowledge that we've been able to acquire from previous experiences, previous jobs, personal experiences through real estate and investing. And we knew that we could scale it. So I think we've both been in a position where we knew that there was more to what we've been able to acquire knowledge-wise, and I think the natural progression in real estate, going from selling real estate to developing real estate and or flipping properties, is kind of where we're at. I would say that's kind of the timeline. I remember vividly, it was end of 2022. We were coming back from Haynes Valley in Missouri. We were both talking about how could we scale real estate, and we naturally started talking about flipping, because at that point you had done a personal flip for a Airbnb in your management portfolio over in Bentonville. I had helped a client with a duplex remodel, and I was going through a personal remodel as well. I enjoyed the process. You did as well. And at that point, we kind of decided like that was an opportunity that we could take advantage of with our skill set, and we've done that. And we did it slowly with our first investor partner with 2 properties in Fayetteville, scaled that to 1 in Rogers, and just completed the 1 on 16th Street. So it's been a roller coaster of not only learning, but building relationships with lenders and subs and whatnot. But that's been the timeline and where we're at today.
Yeah. I get excited talking about it. I almost don't know where to start. I think for somebody to look to scale a home flipping company, it helps to have the background in real estate, obviously. I think 5 years under your belt with real estate sales would be minimum experience required if it was a LinkedIn job application. And we got that. And then I think in real estate sales, the more volume you're doing, the more value in your years.
Yep.
So if we were doing a third of the volume, maybe we needed 15 years of experience to tackle this. Sure. But we were doing so much volume and we were in pressure situations every week that we had built up that pain tolerance a little to where we can handle the cash constraints. We can handle the subcontractor frustrations. We don't panic. Once we put it on the market, we kind of know how the market is. So I think just the story of the career is, if you can build a real estate team in a lab, it'd be me, you, and Julie. If you could build a home flipping company in a lab, it'd be me and you, because we have the experience to do it. So we're currently in that moment where we're looking to scale and we're trying to find ways to do so, which a lot of that comes to financing. With home flipping, it's so cash intensive that it's almost like steering a cruise ship, as opposed to a product or service business would be like a speedboat, is an analogy I use. So we're just trying to figure out, the best way to steer the ship, because decisions you make in January, you pay for in April or May in a business like this. So moving forward to the second segment, I'm going to be asking Chip some questions about the home flipping industry and our business specifically. So Chip, first one, what common misconceptions have you encountered in the world of home flipping, and how do you work to dispel them?
Yeah, so some common misconceptions that I would kind of talk about top of mind would be that it's a process that only an expert can do. I think in the world of knowledge that we live in, with accessibility to YouTube, accessibility to mentors, people within our real estate community that have personally done it, I think there's plenty of people out there that you could lean on to gain knowledge. It's not an impossible task, but it is something that you want to make sure you have a good grasp on before you get into, because you want to avoid the pitfalls of flipping. And really, it's a flipping business, but we're remodeling, we're bringing homes back to life is how I look at it. I think there's an art to it, because, not only are you improving the community, but you're also providing a stable home to a family in an area that they may not have been able to afford a new construction-like product. So I look at it from a perspective that we're providing immense value. And the common misconception that I see is that only experts can do this, people that have prior knowledge in the flipping world. And that just isn't true in today's knowledge environment.
And going off your answer there, would you say that our want or need to improve the community is why we opted for this instead of the new construction spec build route?
Yes, but I would also say another part of that would be the ease of access. With development, it's a drawn out process.
Talking about ground up?
Yeah, from ground up. That process is going to take you 6 to 9 months. It's a little bit more cash intensive. I think that's the next rung, if you will, when you're talking about scaling. The great thing about remodeling is the house is already in place. You're not having to go through the permitting process with the city to build it up from the ground. You're remodeling it. So the process can be, for us, from the time we buy to the time we list it, is between 2 to 3 months, depending upon the severity of the flip itself. Is it a full remodel, or is it a cosmetic upgrade? So yeah, I think that's the reason we gravitate towards flips. But also the areas in which we're flipping is predominantly older homes. And I think for us, growing up in Rogers, and that's where a majority of our flips have been, it's valuable to bring homes that are dilapidated back to life. And I think the coolest thing is when the neighbors come over to see the finished product and they continue to rave about it, talk about how it's improved their neighborhood. They're happy because we're setting comps for them. So, I think that's the reason we gravitate towards remodels versus, ground up construction as of right now.
Well said. Can you dive deeper into how your personal varied skill set has been crucial in the process of flipping homes? And are there specific skills that you have that stand out as particularly valuable?
So prior to real estate, I worked at Meeks Lumber for 5 years. I did a variation of different jobs through Meeks. And on the side, I also did construction work with a contractor as well. And I would consider him my first mentor. He kind of poured into me for about a year, worked alongside him building new construction. So I was able to get a good grasp of what the process looked like in terms of managing subs, the process in which you build a house, actually doing some of the work when it came to laying tile, trim work, etc. So I think from that experience is kind of where I was able to get the first grasp of like what a remodel business would look like. And then transitioning that into real estate over our 4 years of selling real estate, we've acquired a pretty good list of subcontractors that we work with and that we can refer out, but also that will help us with our personal flips as well. So I think the biggest skill set is patience. Those that go into this and don't do the process of analyzing a deal could jeopardize the back end cash flow that you have on that flip itself. The last thing you want to do is go into a 3 or 4 month process and come out on the back end and not have anything to show for it. So I think being patient and finding a good deal, number one. I think we both function from a mindset. If it doesn't make sense on paper, just because we want to flip a property, we're not going to dive into something of that nature. So I think being patient on finding the right deal, and then during the actual remodel, being patient, working with your subs, making sure you do everything the right way the first time so you're not paying for it on the back end, I think is very critical. And making sure that you don't speed up the process and cut any corners. I think that's the biggest thing you and I talk about is we want the quality of the flip to make a statement when that buyer walks through the door versus you walk in and you immediately think, this is a property they put some lipstick on a pig, if you will. So that's my viewpoint. I think patience is the most critical skill set that you need when it comes to flipping properties.
Well, you answered my next question, so it's going to be, what's your piece of advice for a first-time flipper?
Okay.
It sounds like patience is
key.
It's the name of the game. It's so true.
Well, and I think one other thing to add to that is interview subs, because there are
Good point.
Plenty of subs out there that you can find via Google search. Go to your local Home Depot, and everyone is different. I think that it's important to realize that price isn't the only thing that matters. You want a sub that works with you, that it feels easy to communicate with, that they understand what your expectations are. Because if you hire the wrong professional to help you with this, it could delay timeline, it could increase budget. There could be situations where jobs aren't finished to the level that you expect them to. So I would say make sure to do your due diligence when you're trying to find the team of subs that you're going to be working with when you're remodeling a home.
Right on. Should maybe pull that mic just a little closer?
Yep.
You can kind of point it up a little bit. Perfect. All right, so next question. We talk about this all the time. The old $40,000 renovation is now $60,000 because we're talking 2019 numbers and now. With inflation at play, can you elaborate on the dynamics of renovation budgets and how this shift influences your approach to property flips?
Yeah, I would say one thing that we do consistently is that during the deal analysis, when we're looking at a property, we already have a rough budget that we can formulate through a simple walkthrough. And I think that just comes with experience of doing this multiple times. I think one thing that every individual that is flipping a home can attest to is that the budget will always increase.
It can't decrease.
It cannot decrease.
Very rarely, at least.
So one thing that we have learned through our flips is that you have to put a 5 to 7% buffer of increased cost on there every time, because you may find a plumbing issue that you weren't aware of through the general home inspection. It could be an electrical issue. You may need more product than you anticipated. Whatever the case may be. I think that is important to note. So yeah.
So if you want to talk about a live example, actual numbers.
Yep.
And this will let the listener into how we work together. We bought the property for $195,000, 16th Street.
Yep.
This is a property in Central Rogers, ranch style, 1,600 square feet. Was not in good condition. It was livable, but in quotes when we bought it. So if I remember correctly, the initial walkthrough budget, what did we pull, 70?
Our initial budget was 70.
And then if you just want to talk about the back and forth that we had, what we decided on, kind of where we ended up.
Sure.
And how crucial it is to call it back because we know what was going to happen. So if you'll just kind of go through that whole situation and then also maybe refer back to the townhome flip and kind of where we were coming from in terms of paring it back.
Sure. So I think it's important to note that Drake focuses on the numbers, the budget. That's kind of what he focuses on, while I will focus on coordination, actual labor, general contracting, etc. That's our dynamic right now so that we can maximize our skill sets. So with that, we walk through the home. I estimate about $70,000 worth of work, and that includes a full remodel. We got back, we reviewed the budget, we reviewed what the final sell amount we estimated it to be, and you challenged me to 50, I believe, is what you had challenged me to. I knew that we would need a little bit more than that, so I think our final estimate was around 53,000. And we were pretty much on for a majority of that budget. From Linden, we went up a little bit. I think it was about 5% that we anticipated, or that we went over the original budget, which we anticipated on 16th, but happened again.
Yep.
So we used that. The biggest issue on 16th is there were a few categories that we failed to account for, and that obviously came to play at the very end. I think through the process of 16th, I think the biggest issue is we found some plumbing issues that needed to be corrected, which increased the budget up around 3,000. And then there were a few items that we failed to account for. So in total, I think we were about 7% over our initial budget. Came in right around 60,000, not including your interest payments and your home insurance payments. So that's just your straight budget for the actual remodel.
Yeah, and I think when we add it up, it'll be closer to like 62.5.
Yep.
And then another probably 3. So we're probably looking at 65 to 66. But I mean, the thing to consider with this is when we looked at 70 as the initial, my challenge to you was I don't think anything's getting this property to 325. Because you have to deeply know the area that you're in, as well as kind of look 2 to 3 months ahead on interest rates, which my projection 2 to 3 months ago is rates are going to go up. Forget what everyone's saying. People try to talk their way out of interest rates going up. That's not how this works. Inflation's still going up. And then we know that when we look at our market in NWA, or Bentonville, Rogers, Springdale, and Fayetteville, we know Rogers is number 3. Any way you slice it. Now, Rogers has some great areas, but we know that Bentonville's going to lead, Fayetteville's going to be right behind, and then you've got Rogers and Springdale. Fayetteville and Rogers are pretty similar, I would say, depending on the area. But basically the challenge that I made to Chip was I think this property is going to be 310 to 315. So I don't think we're getting an ROI trying to invest 70 to get 325. But I would say based off where we're under contract, we ended up in a good position with a healthy profit. So just to let you guys in on a little bit of the push and pull that goes into deciding on a flip, I think with the business, it helps to have 2 minds, because one can kind of lean towards their own experience. And it helps to pull from multiple people's experience on making decisions like that. So yeah, that's kind of how we settled on this one. Very pleased with our planned profit. So Chip, reflecting on the business landscape, what specific developments or aspects are you most looking forward to this year, and how do you plan to capitalize on them? So it's kind of a confusing question. Basically, looking at the market, looking at the rates, looking at the prices, where do you think we fit in? Like, where does our product fit into what's currently happening for the first-time home buyer in the market?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a majority of the homes that we're interested in are in areas that are close to the areas that you would want to be in if you're a family, right? Like close to the Pinnacle Hills area in terms of your restaurant and nightlife, in Fayetteville, close to the university. So I would say that we're improving areas and allowing first-time home buyers to get a product that, I mean, I would say it's not technically a new build, but the level of finish on the interior of the properties for us is new build-esque. So I think we're providing a product to a first-time home buyer in an area that allows them to live a better lifestyle for a price point that in most cases they would have to go, either far east or far west in order to find one of these new construction homes for maybe a price point that doesn't align with their budget. So I think for us, that's where we've kind of zeroed in on in terms of our target, property is we want it to be a new build finish in a great area for a price point that a first-time home buyer can digest. And I think that's been very successful.
Completely agree. This one's about resilience after mistakes, because the business is about how do you bounce back all the time. How do you approach and overcome mistakes that inevitably occur at a job site, ensuring the project's success and maintaining a positive trajectory on the deal?
Yeah, overcoming mistakes, because I definitely have a few of them. I think, number one, when you're working with a business partner now, obviously we're speaking from experience working together in this. I know that there's people out here that do this on their own, but I think for us, communicating that is important, because I think that if there's a mistake, there's no need to hide it. There's no need to try to cut corners to correct it. But I think for us, we kind of hit on this earlier, doing things the right way the first time so we avoid those mistakes. I think the biggest mistake that we make is we sometimes go over budget because we want to bring the best quality of finish. So I would say that's one of the few mistakes that we have made, maybe the first couple of flips, is sometimes we may overspend, we don't recoup that when we sell. So that's been an important learning curve for us. But on job mistakes, the great thing is who you're working with. There is a mistake, it can be corrected, right? You want to minimize, I think the big areas that you want to minimize mistakes would be the mechanicals of the home, because that could be costly, especially if you have to fix that on the back end through the inspection period. So we're talking about plumbing, we're talking about electrical, we're talking about the foundation, all those areas, and then I would say your HVAC and roof. Those are the key aspects that you don't want to make a mistake, because it could be costly not only with the flip timeline, but also with your budget that you've assorted. So making sure the mechanicals are right from the beginning, making sure that you communicate, if there are issues and correct it immediately. I think that's important. But one thing you'll in this world is you'll never not have mistakes. So it's just important to navigate it correctly, quickly, and within a budget guideline.
Yeah, it's part of that process. So this is for the subs that are out there that follow our page, like our posts, kind of see what we're up to. For subs interested in collaborating with us, what qualities make a subcontractor or company stand out as great to work with? And how can they actively pursue opportunities with our projects?
Sure, yeah. I would say that the qualities that I look for in our subs is communication, just because things move so quickly for us, and we try to get in and out of a deal as quickly as possible, without cutting corners and making sure the work is quality. So I think a key aspect I look for in any sub that we work with is communication, easiness to work with, which I think is a undervalued skill set in a small business. Like,
so true.
If I call you, you're able to answer. You'll be willing to show up and give me an estimate prior to the job starting versus, making it difficult to get some sort of estimate on paper. I would say where we're at, right now we're not able to scale into 2 or 3 flips at a time, but I know that is in the near future. So I know that we're going to have to scale our sub pool.
Right.
I would say the biggest thing for us is simply reach out, maybe share some pricing with us that we can take into account, because we understand that the subs times is important too. So if you have pricing, if you're interested in working with us, because I know that we will need additional help moving forward, just reach out, be open to communication. Either Drake or myself will send a 15-minute call link. You hop on the phone, you can share what it is that you do, your general pricing that you do, your timeline and how to book with you. So once we have that understanding, at that point, we'll keep you top of mind. And once we get to the point that we're scaling 2 or 3 flips at any given time, that way we'll need a few crews that we can work with. So just reach out.
Awesome. So Chip, you got on your GTW Group at EXP hat. You got the rain jacket on. Obviously, our business has evolved quite a bit, and this is our focus right now. How does the retail real estate sales business interact with what we're doing for GTW Development? And how are you thinking about the next couple of years from a sales standpoint?
Sure.
With the market?
Obviously we started this process with sales. You have since moved to New York, which you recently announced. And so I'm sure we'll dive into that a little bit more. But so I would say sales, we're still pursuing sales in the Northwest Arkansas market. I think one thing that we did predominantly the first 3 years while we were in the sales business in Northwest Arkansas is we were constantly seeking out new clientele. Yep. Whether that's cold calling, mailers, door knock, whatever you can imagine real estate agents do to acquire new business, we did that. So now we've shifted our focus to serving the 300 people that we've served previously and their direct network. So we're still helping individuals sell, whether that's buying or selling or investing. But we're doing it for people that we've worked with in the past or their close network versus trying to spend all of our time lead generating, acquiring new business. We're hoping that the work that we put in the first 3 years continues to provide for us on the sales side. And for us, the sales business is still critical because we're able to use that cash flow that we make from sales and inject it straight into the development side of our business. I think with any business, cash constraints is probably one of the issues that a small business deals with. So we're using sales to help continue to push the development business itself.
I think you nailed it. Very well said on that. My perspective, being with EXP, is we're going to continue serving our network locally until we don't have the time to dedicate to serving them as well as we used to.
Yeah.
And right now, with the development business, there's a lot of hurry up and wait because we are doing 1 flip and then another flip. Eventually we will scale to 2, but I think we'll know when we can't give the attention to clients that they deserve.
Sure.
Which we're not there yet, candidly. And that's the purpose of the podcast, just to be completely transparent. So Chip alluded to it. I just announced the move to New York with EXP. So I'm licensed in both states, in New York and Arkansas. The way that we're going to be working locally is I'll still be supporting our clients remotely when they do come to us. And Chip will be doing a lot of the work in terms of showings, setting up inspections, meeting with the clients, meeting with the families. And again, that allows me to be behind the computer and, looking at negotiations. How do we get the best deal? how do we position getting money off closing costs? What's the home going to appraise for? What information does your lender need? And one thing I love about this organization is we work extremely well together. I look at my 4 business partners, so Preston and Julie with 1440, Taylor Scriber with management, and Chip with development. I tell this to the team all the time. We don't have enough people to ever say it's not our job. We just get it done. If we pause for a second and point fingers at who should have done something or what ball got dropped, we're wasting time because we've got 5 people doing the work of 10, and our output shows that. So these are just all thoughts that have been top of mind for me. But to Chip's point, we're still open to serve the network. I think working with us, you get a really deep base of investing. Obviously, a lot of knowledge of construction quality and what makes either a good flip or a new construction property. And just from being in the business when real estate really boomed during the COVID timeframe, we're a process-oriented business. So if you like process and you want a smooth ride that's not going to require a lot of excess communication that's not valuable, we're the team for you. And I think that matches up really well with the style of work that a lot of people do in the area. So a lot of our clients are Fortune 500 company clients.
Yeah.
So, man, I just think we're set up for success. The spring season's exciting. The next 90 days are big if you're in real estate in terms of the deal flow. So yeah, anything you want to add to that, Chip, just to kind of bring it back home?
Yeah, I mean, I think you described it perfectly. We're still looking to help our network, our previous clients and future clients with their real estate needs here in Northwest Arkansas. The unique thing about our team is, and this is how we've always functioned, most of the time when you work with an agent, you get one agent that's your representative. And our team's a little different. We work kind of all together with each and every client. You described how our team works. Look at it in the sense of like a football perception. Like Drake is the offensive coordinator in the box with the headset on, and Julie, she's the head coach, and I'm the quarterback.
Yeah.
And so for us, communication's always been important. How we've done the sales, which is transferred over to development. But when it comes to the home search process, the way that we do it makes it so easy for our clients. We're very process oriented from the beginning, the initial call to going under contract to closing. And I think that's a testament to how we all work. So instead of just getting one agent, you get 3 with us, which I think has been very unique. And as for me, I think that's one of the reasons we've been so successful, because it's easy to get burnout, but when you have 3 people working together for one common goal, we've done some incredible things and have helped, a lot of families build wealth through real estate.
It's been a blast, and I just love that, we cover for each other. I mean, this team has been together since 2020. That is so rare that you can have 3 people go through the boom, the backside of the boom, with the slowdown and the interest rate hikes. And here we are 4 years later talking about the evolution of the business. I saw one of my favorite people the other night at dinner, and man, he's so funny. I'm not going to name the name, but he goes, Drake, I don't believe in evolution in a spiritual sense, but I do believe that businesses evolve. And he was talking about, this year is not last year, next year is not this year, and it hit home for me so solidly, as the business has evolved. And I think we've had to just talk about it to figure it out ourselves. But when you've got 3 people doing the work that traditionally one person does, let's say I'm sick, Chip can step up that week and provide what that client needs. Chip jumps out on vacation to go hit the golf course or go travel. We've got someone to conduct showings. So it just makes it a more professional experience, and that's what NWA wants. They want most people, it doesn't matter if it's a friend of mine, a personal friend, if it's family, if it's a former colleague, the common thread in NWA is everyone wants a professional professional experience because that's how they're used to working. So we've got that for you with GTW.
I think it goes back to being easy to work with. I think it.
Let's talk about being easy to work with.
Yeah.
We say that more than anyone in the world.
Yep.
What does that mean? How would you describe being easy to work with? And I've got some thoughts on this too, as far as how I think about it.
I think being easy to work with is in the world that we live in and what we do is the most critical aspect of how we function, because we're not only helping people with one of the biggest purchases in their life, but we also have to convey that we're knowledgeable. They have to give us trust in terms of navigating this process for them. And not only that, but they have other things. They have their career going on. They have their family situation. So for us, we want to fit seamlessly into that puzzle. We don't want to be a road bump, if you will, throughout the process of buying a home or listing a home, whatever the case is. We want to make sure that what we do is easy for them throughout their workday, that we communicate on time, that we provide all the information that they need, that there's no hiccups, which there will be, but navigating those to where it's quick and easy to get through. To where when you get done with the process, you look back and you reflect and you say, that was enjoyable. That wasn't difficult. That wasn't, head scratching or hair pulling. And it felt like I wasn't given the attention I needed to. Whatever the feedback that you hopefully don't receive, that's what we try to avoid, and we try to make it easy. And I think that's process oriented with our scheduled call links, outlining how our team works at the beginning of the process versus trying to fill in gaps throughout the process, and pre-setting expectations. Once we do that, everyone's on the same page. We can move forward together versus push and pull type situation that many people who are in real estate, that's how they function. It can make things difficult, not only for them and their business, but also for their clients.
We don't move with any ego, man. I mean, we've all left that at the door since we started. We know that we can go further together as a team. When I think about being easy to work with, to answer my own question, I think about how, I'm curious your response, Chip. Have you dealt with any two people that are a client that are the exact same?
Not the exact same, no.
Yeah, and I figured you'd say that. No two people are the same. We're all a combination of our past, our experiences, what we do professionally, how much time we have in the day, our family demands. So we don't expect flawless communication or no frustration from a person. We know we're going to have a healthy dose of some frustration and some gaps in communication.
Yep.
But that doesn't bother us. We just take that head on. And then I would say another part of being easy to work with I focus on is constantly sacrificing for what's best for the client instead of what's best for me. How easy are we to schedule with? Do we always pick up the phone? Since I moved to New York City, my rule has been if that phone rings, I'm answering the phone. I don't care if I'm mid-run. I don't care if I'm workout. I don't care if I'm sitting in front of somebody. I'm going to answer the phone because to me that's critical. So I would say, the sacrifice along with the understanding that no two people are the same would be how I describe being easy to work with. Chip, I have a few more questions for you here. Let's see. So, question for you. Thinking about our first few flips and the one we just completed, how has the aesthetic changed? Because I noticed this last one looked really, really good. I think we made some great decisions on finish choices, but you mentioned the art of it, which I completely agree there's an art to it. How have the finishes changed? And then how do you determine the level of finish needed based on the area and the end buyer? And what's going through your mind when you're making those selections?
Yeah, so I would say that majority of the homes that we've flipped have been extremely dilapidated properties. So we haven't ran into the situation where we're simply cosmetically updating. They've been full gut jobs. So that's something that has allowed us to kind of put our own touches on the finishing, because we're bringing everything into that property that's brand new. I think the staple of what we do for our flips is pulled from new construction. And what I mean by that is the type of doors, the trim style, the usage of colors and how that mixes throughout the home. So I think a lot of the inspiration for our properties is from viewing new construction properties and seeing what those finishes look like and what the market wants right now. I think that's important. You know, I may have my own personal preferences for what a house should look like, but I got to realize that this is for the market. It's not for myself. And I think that's how we function. I think with every property, one thing we've done is we've tried to change a little bit. No one property has been the same, which I've enjoyed adding just a little flair to it. This time we went with like a black type finish versus in the past we went, our previous flip on Linden was green cabinets with like gold accents, etc. This one was more of a black finish, so black tile, black hardware, black fans and electrical. So and then we tied that all in with the fireplace, which you notice as soon as you walk into the property. That is a iron ore finish, which is a Sherwin-Williams paint. Shout out to Julie. And I think the biggest difference with this home is we open up the wall going from the entryway that you can see directly into the living space, which can now be used as like a flex space, either a dining area or a like sitting room, whatever someone may want to use that for. Shout out Miranda for that. And I would say that we have paired not only new construction into it, but what we understand is important, because something that you mentioned after we got rid of that wall and opened that up was the natural light and the flow of the natural light versus originally when you walked in, it almost felt like a dungeon or like a small tight area.
Right.
So I think not only taking our experiences through looking at new construction, but also what we think is important for the end user to want with that particular property.
Yeah, well said. Well, Chip, I think I've been through most of the questions, kind of what I wanted to ask. Is there anything that you want to share with our network, with the market, how they can help us this year? When we think about these awesome connections we made, and a lot of these are former clients. I've got a handful of people that I would love for them to be a limited partner with us one day.
Yep.
Some have already. A limited partner, for those of you that don't know, is somebody that does not have majority in a deal, but does invest their capital and is paid out a return by us once we complete whatever work we're doing. So that's going down a different trail. But my point is we've met some really good people that I think extremely highly of, and you guys know who you are. So thank you for supporting the business. In the interest of confidentiality, I'm not going to name any names as far as where you're parking your money, but thank you guys so much. Your support means the world to us, and the belief that you have in the business. How can somebody in our network help us this year, whether that's with sales, whether that's with flips? What do we need to be successful?
Yeah, I would say that first off, I also want to thank our subs. I want to thank our lender partners. I want to thank our clients who've sent us opportunities.
Insurance, title.
Yeah, we could keep going, but it truly takes a large group of people working together in order to accomplish anything great. So I just want to thank all of our partners, investors, lenders, whoever you may be. Thank you for the trust, for the partnership, and for the business. I want to thank our fiancés also for allowing us the time to make this successful, because that is something that any great business requires is time, and they've been very supportive and understanding. So I want to thank them both as well. But in terms of like what we could use from our network and our previous clients and our referral partners is just keep us in mind, because we all know that one property on your street that's been needing a facelift. Those are the properties that we want. We don't have enough boots on the ground just from our team in order to take advantage of those opportunities. So
We rely on you.
yeah, we absolutely do. So just keep your eyes and ears out if you hear of anything. If you know of any properties that could use a remodel and they're thinking of selling, reach out to us. If you have any family or friends that are in the process of selling a property that may be a great flip for us, I would just keep your eyes and ears open. And on the sell side, if you're one of our previous clients or one of our, close network referral partners, keep us in mind. Again, we're still looking to serve here in Northwest Arkansas, and we're happy to share our expertise through real estate.
Yeah, going into the year, you never know exactly what it's going to look like. First quarter's been brutal. Absolutely brutal. Just going through winter in real estate with 8.5% interest rates. And meanwhile, we had that day where we said we better get going on this flip, and we knew that we were in for it. And now it's done, and it's under contract. So, guys, it's what you don't see. You see the under contracts, you see the closing days when they occur. There's a lot of behind the scenes that goes into anything in the real estate space. So, it's been exciting to work through those challenges, and we get these little milestones. We're like, awesome, that's under contract. Okay, what do we have coming up in April? And you always have to be planning in advance. But I'd like to reiterate what Chip said. Still looking to serve the community, and we would appreciate any of our network thinking of us. Shoot us a text, let us know what's going on with you. Any closing thoughts, Chip?
Obviously, we've talked a lot about our business. We've talked about sales. Drake, what has been the most exciting thing for you growing? Obviously, you have 1440 Photography. So any of you looking for real estate photo needs for your real estate portfolio, reach out to 1440. You have your own personal management investing business, and obviously we're growing Great Team Win Development. Maybe some closing thoughts is how do you personally handle managing and not only keeping afloat, but having 3 businesses that are thriving while also running marathons? Drake just placed, I think, 5th.
5th for the men. There was the leading woman got me by a minute. She ran a great race. Her name's Abigail. So I don't want to leave that out. 6th overall, 5th for the men.
So 6th overall at the Little Rock Marathon, a time card of 2:52:38, 36.
Yep.
Which should solidify you as a Boston Marathon qualifier.
It should.
So Drake is a very busy individual while also starting up real estate in New York. For you, I think people who may look up to us or other business owners, how do you handle managing multiple businesses while also being engaged, while also pursuing running? You have a lot on your plate. What's some advice that you can give to our listeners and people that have, kind of tapped in, even though we're not going to be doing a podcast weekly?
Yeah.
I think the purpose of this was just to share our experiences and what we've gone through and what we're looking to accomplish. I think something that people don't see is the side of managing businesses and the toll on that. So just talk a little bit about your experience there. Any advice you can give to fellow business owners of how you've been able to not only build, maintain, but also have multiple businesses that thrive.
Yeah. So first off, I would credit God. Now, I got some really great texts after the performance in Little Rock that people talking about, this is inspiring, and those do, those come in for me, and I don't talk about that a lot, but I guess the first thing I lean towards is thanking God for the opportunities, because I do believe that success is bestowed upon people that have a greater vision in mind and that think outside of their own ego and their own individual success. So that's number one for me is that relationship and leaning into that more and more as the years go on. And then going down to kind of the next order of importance with the three businesses, I've got to thank my three business partners, or I should say four. We had a team dinner in December. I went through a very difficult year last year, living in multiple states and preparing for the move, but I didn't want to leave my people hanging because I knew that we had built a beast in NWA. So I remember going to that dinner and just looking at you and Preston and Julie and saying, like, you know, Chip's got the keys for development. I trust you fully. I know Preston and Julie have 1440 covered, and then on the management side, the guy that's running my portfolio, my cousin through marriage and honestly just a friend since junior high and high school, Taylor, does like an amazing job. Unreal business partner. I mean, he's fantastic. So I've got three awesome businesses. I'd never want a fourth. These three to the gates. I couldn't add a fourth if I tried. So I'm glad some stuff fell through that was not meant to be. But it starts with the people. I've never had a team this good. So for me, it's like, okay, 1440 is great this week, and we're heading the right direction. Management's covered. We've been through, I mean, you've helped with some of the trials we face. Now it's like, all right, let's focus on development. So I'm able to compartmentalize what needs focus and push the right buttons. I think naturally what I'm best at is marketing. So, you know, it looks like everything's always running fairly smoothly from the outside looking in, which is vital to our businesses. But that's the way I view it, is it completely is dependent on the people. And then the other thing that I've come to realize, number one, my faith in God has got me to this point in business. Shout out to Julie and Taylor for the influence, but I've started reading more. Those things help me. And then I think my other secret advantage is I'm talking to myself an hour a day with no music running. So I have a meeting with myself every day. I'm working to get that more towards the morning because a lot of times it's the middle of the day, but I don't really listen to music when I run, and I talk to myself the whole time. So I think during that time I'm able to like self-organize what's going on during the day. So that's just kind of been the story for me lately, is those few things. When you start to have a little bit more pressure and more on your plate, I think that the little things matter more. What you're putting in your body, what you're consuming, content-wise, what you're reading. So I've really leaned into that. Nice. So, and then, you know, I think what's different with me too is I'm going to lean towards what I love as far as my personal branding. No one cares if we made $2 million in sales volume happen in a month, and they shouldn't. So I'm just like, I love music, I love golf, I love NBA, I love running. That's what I'm going to put out there in the world. Take it or leave it. Those are the things that if you want to talk to me about something, talk to me about that. So, you know, I mean, it's just being yourself. Like, I think early on in business, you think like you have to brand a way that will be perceived well. And then once you get further along, you realize the more you brand as yourself, and the fact you're a 20 handicap golfer and Chip just beat you by 2 strokes, 98 to 96.
Hopefully those scores improve this year.
Hopefully so. But I mean, that's my perception. And a lot of that is like thinking patiently, like you said.
Yeah.
It's thinking what's going to attract the eyeballs that are going to drive me forward and align with my vision and actually be people I want to work with in sales.
So to recap, keeping values first and foremost, leaning on people that you trust and support with your businesses, and then also self-care. I think it's easy to, when you're successful on the career side, to let things kind of fall to the wayside on the self-care side.
Bro, I've ran myself into the ground before, and I've had some extremely unhealthy habits in my life. And I'm honest about that. And I'm not going to say each one, but yeah, I mean, if there's something out there that you shouldn't do, I've done it at times. So, yeah, continue.
So self-care, just making sure to take care of yourself. I think those three together will keep a clear and consistent mindset. I think anytime that life is a roller coaster, but anytime your mindset and where you're at mentally is a roller coaster, things can get difficult. So I think those are some great pieces of advice for fellow business owners, people our age looking to scale. But yeah, man, really enjoyed this. You know, if you're looking to share your business's story or get just content out there,
Podcastvideos.com, man.
podcastvideos.com here in Rogers off the Pinnacle exit. They will take care of you. They have multiple rooms. They have single studios.
Right, and one thing I do want to go back to that we've talked about, one of our conversations that I remember recently is like, man, we're the same guys. We've grown slow. So I'm the same guy that was trying to get LeBron rookie cards and door knock houses to get lawn mowing jobs.
Yeah.
In 2007, listening to Lil Wayne when I should have been not doing that. You know what I mean? That's me, like listening to the Carter 3 on the iPod.
Yeah.
You know, learning words I shouldn't have learned. But as you elevate and business demands more for you and partners demand more and clients demand more, you've got to change your operating system. So it's just like those little tweaks, like the iOS updates that slow down your phone. I feel like that's the same thing in business is like, I'm not going to do that now. And it's going to be like, it's going to slow me down for a second as I adjust to that new normal, but then it's going to help me run more efficiently moving forward. So yeah, man, I could talk all day long, bro, but I enjoyed this. I think we know what we have in front of us this year. We didn't even talk about the development project. You want to kind of...
We did it. I think we should save that.
Yeah, we'll save that for the next time.
We, just to hint, we have an exciting opportunity that we closed on the beginning of December with another group that we're going through the initial phases of figuring out. We're excited about the potential of that and what that could look like for development.
As well as the people we're with.
Exactly.
They have been awesome.
They've been great. I think anytime you're trying to scale with something that you can't accomplish on your own, it's important to have great partners, and that we do. So we're excited. We don't want to talk too much about it just because we're in the initial stages and we don't know what route we're going to take, but we're excited to share that in the future. Thank you, everyone, for joining, listening in, taking the time to either watch this video in full or a snippet that you may see on our social media. Keep us in mind if you're looking to talk about real estate, investing, maybe running. Reach out to not me about the running aspect of everything else.
Reach out to Chip about golf.
Yeah.
If you want to learn how to stick a ledge from 100 yards.
I'll explain how to decrease that handicap from 24 to 20 in about 6 months. But yeah, just simply want to thank everyone, and we look forward to hopping back on the mic here in the next couple of months and describing a little bit more about what we've accomplished this year here in 2024 and what we have on the docket moving forward. So thank you. Drake, any closing thoughts?
No, thank you guys for listening. This has been Drake and Chip, Great Team Win Development. Take care. Nice work, man.
That was cool.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. Kind of felt more natural there towards the end.
It did.